you are living in a room and a parlor.
Yeah.
But in Africa, you have 4 flats. So who is living in that 4 flat? So for me as a person, I am also blaming that person who did that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But for me as a person, I believe that I should have the 4 flat here. My name is Mr. Ambrose Imadomoye.
Sir, do you think it is advisable for those of us living here in Europe to keep investing in Africa constantly with the mindset that when we get to 60 years, 70 years, we are all going to relocate back to Africa? Do you think it's a good idea?
Yeah, I will say it's not so much a good idea, but it's good, but not so much a good
Good
idea
idea.
because of the word you use. Keep investing, keep
Yeah.
investing.
Yeah.
One of the things that we must define is that many of us left home for the reason of looking for greener pastures, how we can better our life, how we can be able to create good future for our family and so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
many of us left with our wives and children at home, while some of us left as a single person. So you
Yes.
see, this category of people are different. We can all not be judged the same.
Yeah.
So the one who left with wife and children at home,
Yeah.
at least your first priority should be to give comfort to the family you left at home.
Okay.
So maybe that will make you want to struggle to stay in one room instead of going into a flat where you know that you will spend more, to quickly put something home to create something for your family to be comfortable at home.
Okay.
So that is understandable. But for you that came here as a single person and you got married here and you have your children here, it is far, far better for you to first of all start doing something that will give you comfort here first, in order for you to be okay before you start thinking of doing something home. And also for that first person that I use as an example, who also have a family in Nigeria, but you have the intention of bringing your families here tomorrow. So I think I will see advise that it is better for you to start the investment here. Give them comfort at home. Maybe renting a good flat for them if you left them before in 2 room and a parlor. Rent a good flat for them where your wife and children will now stay, so that you'll be able to have good atmosphere to take good care of your children. Then while you do a lot of things here, like for example, try to get your driving license before your wife and children will come. Try to get a good job. Try to get a good place, like a good house. It doesn't have to be a villa. Something that is okay, in order for you to give comfort to them whenever also they'll come in.
Or you could also buy a house, because some people will say, okay, what about if the government now say, okay, all Nigerians go back to your country? That's why some people don't actually want to invest here. They will prefer investing in Nigeria.
Yeah, like if you stay more over here in Europe compared to in Africa, it is better you create comfort for yourself here, because what use it is for you to have a 4 bedroom flat in Africa, and here you are living in a room and a parlor with a wife, and let's say a wife and a child, you're just starting a family, a wife and 2 children, for example, you are living in a room and a parlor. But in Africa, you have 4 flats. So who is living in that 4 flat? So for me as a person, I am also blaming that person who did that kind of a thing. But for me as a person, I believe that I should have the 4 flats here that I will rent. My wife and children will be staying in it for us to be okay. So that little by little, I can be doing something in Africa that will also be good enough to accommodate me, because that is not where I stay. So I will not want to pack all my wealth over there. So I have to create comfort here for myself. I think that is the first thing we must think of.
Then what about this normal belief that we also have, that it's good for us to do some of our major investment in Africa, in Nigeria to be precise, because when we get to 60 years, when we get to 70 years, that we all will actually go back to Nigeria. Although there are some people that had this mentality before. So why do you think these people, they could not make it? They could not keep to their promise of relocating to Nigeria when they get old?
The question is, how many of the people have gone home at old age? I think that is a big question that we have to answer.
Because this is what they've been saying, that we'll go home, we'll relocate home when we are old.
Because it sounds so good to say so whenever we are in a foreign land. But from practical experience, we've come to really understand that even at old age, that is when you actually need Europe more. What do I mean? Because at old age, it is expected that everyone should be more closer to his or her doctor in terms of medical, because
Yeah.
you have stressed your life over here through the sun, through the winter, through all the hazardous weather that we have over here in
Yeah.
Europe, to be able to live a life. And now you are going to pension, where all this stress that you went through will now come telling on you as a
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
whereby you need access to regular doctor. You understand?
Yeah.
So over there in Africa, going there to now stay, it's like you are even drawing your debt closer to yourself. But to say once in a while moving out and coming in, it is understandable. Maybe during winter over here, as somebody who is already of age, maybe that cold is not so much okay for you
For
anymore.
you.
You
Yeah.
go to Africa, maybe you spend for 3 months.
Yeah.
Then when
After
we
the
still
cold, you
have
come back.
the summer here, you come back over here, have time to visit your doctor, take good care of yourself, run all the normal tests, and so on and so forth, in order to still keep you going on. But to say you want to pack your load, everything to now go and be staying in Africa,
Yeah.
I think there is need for every one of us to really look into that critically, because it has not helped a lot of persons.
But have you seen anybody that have done that?
The few I've seen, they all also return back.
They return
After
back.
some time, they have to return back. The few I've seen, they couldn't
Stay.
stay completely, because they have to return back again with their children.
Then what about this property that some of them have 4 flats, 8 flats, and all that? Do you think our children here will ever go and inherit some of those property, or it's just a wrong investment we actually made?
That is one of the mistakes we normally make as family people living here in Europe.
Yeah.
We think our children will go home to inherit all this property. Now, these are some of the challenges that I want to point out that could be a hindrance to making that happen. These same children we are talking about, maybe for this period of 20, 30 years that it took you to do all this investment, give birth to them, and they are now grown up to be maybe 25, 30 years of age. And for this period of time, maybe they have only visited Africa, maybe four times or even less, or
Yeah.
5 times. Then, which means you really didn't, you were just only saying it with your mouth, you really didn't plan well for it. Because that child may not even know the terrain, he may not even know where your properties are, he may not even know what you have, he may not even know how to navigate his way in Africa, because it's a child that was born and bred here in Europe.
Yeah.
You understand me? Then another thing is that number two, because of the kind of life we will also giving to our children here, which is what we advise every parent to struggle to do, but that is what some of us, our parents, couldn't do. Not because they really didn't want to have it in mind, but the challenges at
The
home,
resources.
they were the resources, thank you, they were unable to really give us that better life and better footing. So now we have the opportunity to give our children that kind of a better life and better footing. So a child that is able to now buy his own, for example, buy his own personal house here,
Yeah.
maybe a small bungalow to start with his life and family, is that child you now expect to go and inherit 4 flats that you built maybe like 20 years ago that may no longer even be in vogue.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things we have to consider. So some of the time, I think that some of this investment we just do them for our family members way back at home,
Back home,
because sometimes many of these investments, our family members are the one managing it on our behalf. Sometimes some of them, our family members are even staying inside it. So by the time your child is really willing to go home tomorrow to go and struggle for those property, automatically it's going to be work, because the family you left at home that is enjoying that property will not fold his hand and just allow one small boy from somewhere to come and you know the nature of our country. And this is a child who the Benin will say, Omaya Benamiya is just a child that grown up in Europe, doesn't know where he's left or right when it comes to the way we do things in Africa. So for me, many of us are just saying it with our mouth and we are not working towards it. And maybe once in a while when he's traveling, he always travel with the family. At least maybe the first son or the first child, whichever, to make sure that the person is used to home, used to this property. Then this is the person I would say is not only saying it with his mouth, but he's saying it and is working towards it. But majority of us, we just say it, but we are not working towards it. We just expect that one day, when that day will just come, all of a sudden, our children will just go home and go and take care of the property. When you didn't lay the foundation, you didn't prepare them for that, it's going to be difficult. And moreover, like I said earlier on, when these children are well to do here, I mean, maybe you have a Mercedes Benz at home and the child is able to do well and is riding a nice Mercedes Benz. Yeah, what is he doing with your this thing at home? So automatically, we are just making noise if we are not planning and working towards it.
Okay.
So
Thank you very much, sir.
you are
Thank you.
welcome, my
Thank
brother.
you. Really
You're
appreciate you,
welcome.
sir. Thank you. Thank you.